I knew you were going to do that. Get off. Down. So down.
His face is so big.
You know, everybody says that. I need y'all to get off.
Yeah, like when you see it, you're like, damn, that's a big
That's
face.
why the vet thought he was supposed to get much bigger than this because his feet and his head is so big, but he's not gotten any bigger, so which is fine by me. I don't think I need a dog any bigger.
Wow, like his eyes are probably bigger than my eyes. What are they about to say?
True.
So you got some big eyes. Just a big face.
A long face. Everybody, people are always doing. They're like, he got such a long face.
Right, he does.
Thank you. Yes. Even with my long face, I'm
All
still
right.
cute.
All right. Welcome to Consequences of Our Culture podcast. Today, we're going to talk about age gaps in relationships. Are they too old? Are they too young? What's your limit? With me, of course, as always, I have.
Stephanie. Hi, y'all.
All right, let's get into it. So, many people. Okay, so you typically hear a lot of guys dating younger women, and you hear a lot of girls, well, women, dating older men.
Yeah.
And what's your take on that stuff? Is that something you feel like you could do?
Yeah, definitely. When I was like,
Really?
yeah, when I was like 25, I think I dated a 40-year-old.
A 40-year-old?
Yeah. I mean, he was
At
a young.
25?
I think he was a
A
young
15-year
40.
age gap?
Yeah, but you know, I feel like women tend to mature faster than men. So
Every girl
you know,
who dates every woman who dates an older man says that.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm not saying okay. Like, you know, any younger than that would be, I think it would be weird. And maybe even that is weird for some people. 25 and 40, it is kind of crazy.
Weird.
But like, I think if I had children, I don't think I'd want my kid dating. If they were 25, I wouldn't want them dating somebody 40 years old. Like,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know, it just depends on, I think on that maturity level, maybe if the guy's kind of coming correct, you know, just depends. Like this guy, I will say he was, like he looked young. He wasn't, he's black, you know.
Okay.
We just tend to age very
I
well,
get it.
you know.
Yeah,
so it's like, so he really did not look 40 by any means, and he wasn't like creepy or anything. It just was very like organic the way that it happened.
What attracted you to him?
What's
the age?
I mean,
So-
I honestly I didn't know how old he was at the time. When when we first started, like, you know, when you approach somebody or they approach you and you see them out, like, from looking at him, I assumed we were around the same age. I never,
That's right.
like, I didn't think, oh man,
That's that
he must
melanin.
be old. Yeah, that
Melanin,
melanin.
don't crack.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't, no wrinkles or anything. I mean, he was bald, but I mean, you know, but at that time,
You was
as you
willing
know,
to
I
do
had
the bald
dated
stuff?
somebody when I was
Yeah.
like 26 who was also who was losing his hair, had the receding hairline. So to me, that's not, being bald is not a indicator of being old, you know. So
That's true.
So yeah, so I assumed we were around the same age, and then as we got to know each other, I realized that he was older, and yeah, it was. I mean, it just ended up not working out. Essentially, just not because of the age thing. It was just we wanted different things.
So when he told you he was 40, like, there was no type of red flags or anything to tour you. You was like, or was it something you had to look past, or something you didn't care about?
Yeah, I think it definitely was something I had to look past. Like, yeah, my initial reaction was kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
40, that's okay. Like, I ain't never dated somebody that old. Like, you know, but I think just because of his vibe, and we, like, you know, had the same interest and morals, the way we were raised was very similar too. So we just had a lot in common that it didn't, and like I said, he didn't give old. Like
Right,
I felt like I was talking to somebody around my age. It didn't feel like I was talking to this older man that was giving me wisdom and all, like, it wasn't like that. Like, cause I've talked to, or not talked to, I should say, but I've, like encountered older men that have tried to, talk to me or, in a romantic way. And they give off like they're trying to teach me something, like it just, he wasn't like that. It was just like very chill, like normal, not trying to be a father figure, like nothing weird, so.
What's the oldest you would date? I'm not going to say your age, but
I don't mind. I'm 33. Like I don't,
okay.
yeah, I'm not, I think I'd probably go to 50, but
Okay.
it would be, I will say like, okay, like on the dating apps,
Right.
I don't go any higher than 40,
Okay.
but
Okay.
if like out, in the wild, if I met somebody and we vibe, and they happen to be 50 years old,
Okay.
especially if you didn't have kids, I would probably, give it a
That'd
chance.
Be hard find probably 50-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
And have kids.
That would be, that's why I'm like, it
Yeah.
would be kind of like a unique situation
Yeah.
where it's
no.
just like, he has everything I'm looking for. Like, why wouldn't I, pursue it?
I get that. For me, and I know a lot of guys, a lot of guys go for like younger women, especially when they get up in age. But for me, I wouldn't talk to anyone kind of outside of my generation. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was looking for someone, like when I was on the dating apps, let's say I was like 30 or 31, I wouldn't go like past 27. And I probably wouldn't go above like 30, 35,
Yeah.
36, something
Yeah.
like that. Like I always wanted to stay within the same generation. For me, like, even like me and my fiance, like we'll be like, singing in the car. We'll be singing songs that's memorable. I was like, oh, you remember where you were when this happened? And, if I was dating like,
Right.
someone in their early 20s, like, what the fuck are you talking
Right.
about?
And they're like, I don't know what that is.
Right,
Like,
who the fuck
yes.
is Ludacris?
I completely
Yeah.
understand that.
So
The generation part, that makes sense.
for sure. And I don't know, like for me, I always felt like it'd be creepy, for me to talk to someone. Maybe
Yeah, I couldn't go lower. It's one thing to go higher. Like I
Right.
feel like it's not as. If anything, I feel like when you're the younger one in a relationship, you're not viewed as like, ugh, or like what what's going. Maybe you could be viewed as a gold digger. I don't know, but
Right.
but typically it's the older person that's seen as like, what are your intentions? You kind of that's a
Yeah.
little creepy. Like I don't think I could go any lower than really like 29.
Right. And then
Me, I just
especially like the 20s is like a tricky time. Like they're still figuring themselves out.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable with who I am at this point.
Yep.
I ain't got time to go back and forth with you and argue and you like extra emotional. And it's cool to have emotions, but like you
Yeah.
gotta have control of them and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah.
like I feel like I figured myself out. I found myself, and I couldn't be with a person that's still, looking for that. So, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Dang,
That makes that makes a lot of sense. Somebody that is like emotionally mature is, and not to say somebody in their 20s can't be emotionally mature.
That's true.
I get it. There's definitely some folks that are much older who still have not figured it out, have
Right.
not gone to therapy, have
Oh,
not
yeah.
done the work in themselves to, to be better and grow. So I get that it's not always an age thing, but age definitely helps. Experience is really a big help with, becoming a better person and figuring yourself out, starting to have that self-love and confidence about yourself. Some of us are born with it, and that's great. Like my little sister, the day she popped out, I think she just always has had this air of confidence about her, and does not care what other people think and all that. But but I think there's some folks, they have to, like me, that had to grow into that, and I don't know if I could being around somebody I could date somebody much younger that's going through that and kind of figuring it out.
So what's the youngest you dated? What's the biggest?
I think 3 years is the youngest I've gone. Yeah, when I was in college.
Yeah, me too.
And he was very immature, but I mean, it was only 3 years. He's
right.
just who he was.
Okay. Could you date someone like the same age as your parent?
Yeah, that's what's weird.
Right.
For me, that's where going to the 50s gets a little, because I think my parents are like 50 something, 55 or something like that. But then also my stepdad, I think, is in his 40s. So
really?
Yeah, my mom is married someone who is like 10 years younger than her, 10 or 11, something like that. So yeah, so I got parents all in the, multiple ranges. It's kind of that's where going into the 40s too kind of is weird to me as well.
Yeah,
maybe. But what's the youngest you've dated?
It's about 3 years. I think when I was 30, it wasn't really dating. I guess it was dating. It wasn't like a relationship though.
Yeah. Same.
I was talking to someone who was 27, and but it wasn't gonna be serious or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
Not because of our age, just other reasons.
Yeah.
But yep. Oh man, we got any other topics on this?
Age gaps. Yeah, I will just say, I think everybody should do what's best for them. The age gaps can definitely work, at times, and
it has worked for people.
But that there's some that just kind of is okay. Like perfect example is Celine Dion and her husband.
Oh,
he was I don't even remember, honestly. I need to look that up. But he knew her when she was like 14 or something like that. He was a full adult. I think he was her manager, or like he helped with her career, and knew her from when she was a child. And then when she turned, I think 18 or 19, they went public with their relationship.
Yeah.
So
weird.
Something that, to me, I'm like, but at the same time, they were together up until he died. He seemed to, worship the ground she walked on, and treated her well. They had, I think, a few children and maybe 2 boys or something like that. So, once she was like older, then it didn't seem like that big a deal. But when you learn that backstory that he knew her at 12 and 14, somewhere around there, it's just like grooming. It sounds like grooming, right? Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. It's like a part of me is like, with that situation, like maybe he really just, he did not cross any lines, and it wasn't until she became an actual adult that suddenly the switch flipped for him. I don't know, but it's just, I know for me, I don't know any children that I've like, and notice how I say children, and they're not really children anymore, but I don't know anybody, I should say, that like I knew them when they were kids. Like, when you go to church and those kids, like you were maybe in youth group, like with the high schoolers, / college kids, and then they were like in the elementary, group, and now I
never talk to them,
Yeah, it's just like, and you don't see them that way, because you're like, there's the little kids, and then like. Then one day they walk in after, they're coming home from college, you're a seasoned adult in your career, but they're, either late college years or, early, like they've graduated early in their career, and it's like, oh wow, like that ain't little Tommy anymore. Tommy didn't grown up. Like it's I've never had that experience.
Right.
You know, like I still see it. For me, it's like, dang, Tommy. Like I remember when he was just a little baby. Like I can't
Right.
believe you're so big now. Like
Yeah, that's
it's
weird.
just
I could never like get that. If that was a situation, I could never like think of them outside of like
yeah.
when I met
Like
them
I'll
and when
always
I knew them.
know
So,
you
yeah,
and see you as like
no go.
when you were a little kid running around. Like it's just so yeah. I don't you know, Jay-Z and Beyonce. They're the same way. They have a big age gap. I
Oh,
think
yeah?
I think he started dating her. Don't give me the line. I'm not put any
Right, I know they were
wrong
dating.
information out, but I know people
Oh,
have
Bonnie
have
and Clyde. I remember that. Yeah.
I know people have used them several times in,
Yeah.
you know, when talking about age gaps and grooming or like kind of just weird, like, but again, like with that situation, I'm like, I wouldn't consider that grooming. I don't know. It just seems like they were two people that just fell in love and they happened to have this huge age gap, you know, just, I don't know. It's just, I think it just has to, just depends on the, I don't know, the factors, the other little details in there. Like, I think it's better if you meet them on the street. Like, if you just happen to stumble upon each other somewhere and there's that age gap, but it wasn't like you watched them grow up, you know?
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that is definitely something. Like a lot of guys, when they have their second wife, you know, so the first wife didn't work out. They're about the same age, so they decide to re-up, you know, get someone younger, you know, start anew with someone younger. But in those situations, I don't know, it just seems like it seems more pathetic than anything.
Yes, it seems like a
It's
midlife
like-
crisis,
And
trying to get your youth back. Like,
I have a friend, I'm not going to say his name, but like we're in our 30s and he's over here talking to, you know, girls graduating college in their early 20s. And I'm like, bro, you got to stop.
that's, yeah.
I was like, because like, you know, these people don't have necessarily, like a lot of these people don't have the same response. Like you have a child and, you know, you've been on your own for a little bit. And a lot of these people, like, you know, they're still on their parents' phone plan and stuff like that. And you're over it. Like, I don't feel like it could compare.
Not even paying their own health insurance.
Right. You know, it's just like a baby. And it looks,
Yeah.
for me, it feels like sad because it looks like you, and this is not necessarily the case, but you couldn't get someone your own age.
Yeah, it's
So
like
you
something
decided
must
to
be like,
go a little low.
like what's wrong that people your own age who have or their
Right.
brain
You-
fully
you wanna
developed
show up
that
to
they
her
don't
door
wanna-
all smart with his life experience and, you know, impress her. Be like, yeah, you know, this is how you handle your taxes and, you know, you got to put together this resume. I can help you with all of that.
Right,
You know, like
right.
stuff like that.
see, see, and when I'm that age, I feel like I would want somebody. I mean, granted, yes, I had an age gap at one point, but even that, like, we didn't get far enough for it to have moments like that. Like, we just did the fun stuff of just going out, you know, hanging out, going to concerts, or, you know, going out to eat or whatever. We didn't get to like actually, we weren't really like dating and meeting family and stuff like that. So I just can't imagine that I would rather go through that with somebody who's also on that level, who's also like kind of clueless, and we're, you know, to bring up my sister again, like she's been dating her boyfriend for a while now. And I love that they're the same age, both in like 21, 22. And they're figuring it out together with like just the little things of, you know,
Okay.
of life, you know, and I think it's better that way, you know, just like
After you dated older and then you dated someone your age range. Let's talk about dating in your age range. Did you ever feel like dudes in your age range weren't experienced enough or mature enough.
Yeah, that definitely. Felt like they. I feel sometimes it's like present. They just emotionally, like, that emotional maturity is not there, and also the what is it? It's like trying to find the right words. It's like they're not like the material things, which I'm not necessarily huge on that. Like, I don't necessarily
Like,
look at how much money you make, but
okay.
they also just don't really have their stuff together. Like, I don't need you to own a home or anything like that, but to not have like a good job that, where you could really take care of a family, you're barely taking care of yourself, you got roommates. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I feel like I run into a lot of that. Like, and I'm not judging, understand, like, still, like, everybody's on their own journey and all of that. But like, when I'm looking at somebody that I want to date and potentially marry, I'm like, it's hard that, like, I'm kind of up here and have some, things in place and have stuff
Right,
together,
right.
and they don't. It's just not having that balance. It's hard, and I feel like the older you go older, you tend to
Have your
have,
stuff
yeah,
together.
you
Yep.
tend to have things together. And I've tried to, date the man that didn't really quite have it all together, because I feel like, the potential is there, and not just even potential, but it's not, because how they say don't date potential. It's not even that, like, not that kind of potential where,
Right,
you
right.
think but you can see the things they're working towards, and and they have a plan and all of that. I've tried that, but even with them, like, they don't feel comfortable in the relationship because they
Mm,
can't do the things that I guess they want to be able to do with, for me, because of their financial situation, or their living situation. So yeah, sometimes dating up, I feel like, you don't have, you don't run into as many of those issues. But
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I feel like um, the sweet spot for like when you're dating is like let's say 28, 29. You know what I'm saying? Like you could talk to someone that's 25, and you could talk to someone that's like 35. You
that's
know,
so true.
and that's like
That's so
it's a
true.
nice mix because like at 35 they could still have children possibly,
Yeah,
and at 25 like they're not completely, they have a little bit of life experience, if they
yeah,
went through, if they graduated college at 22, they've been on, you know kind of on their own for 3 years, or if they
yeah,
like didn't go to college and they took the other route and they've been started when they were 18, then they have a lot more life experience, so they're not super young and clueless, and at the same time 35 they probably have their stuff together, so
yeah, yeah.
no, I feel like that's a sweet spot.
It really is.
But for me, um, yeah, it's just got to be around the same age. Like me and my fiance are like 6 months of each other. Like
Oh
just keep
yeah,
it. It's very close.
yeah,
A lot of the experiences we had, and it's like So yeah, but yeah,
yeah.
that about
Yeah.
that. Oh,
Actually, I wanted to bring up too another example is Tracy Ellis Ross. Like, I've been watching I watched a couple of
she
her
got a younger.
interviews, and she said she has found that dating younger has been better for her because of the the whole thing when you're talking about with the generation. Like, in her generation, they tend to be more homophobic. Um
Yeah,
not as open minded about things, and
yeah,
very traditional, and where men and women have those traditional roles, and they expect her to be, I guess, cooking and cleaning at the house. And that's not, she didn't necessarily say that. I don't know if that's, she didn't say that specifically, but she just mentioned those traditional roles. And Tracy Ellis Ross is not, she doesn't take me, like, I just don't see her being someone that's like just a homemaker, like she's actress, award-winning actress and all these different shows and stuff like that. Like, I feel like she probably needs somebody who's pretty strong and, confident in himself to be able to stand next to her in these spaces, where she's with celebrities and whatever, lifestyle she's living. And, and I thought that was interesting which is something that I feel like I've run into with trying to date older. While they may be more established, our generation, I feel like, is more open-minded, and we're on the same page in the way we think about how a household is run and how you do things based off of what's best for your household, and not like, oh, well, because you're the woman, you're supposed to do this. Because you're the man, you're supposed to do this. Well, maybe he's better in this area, maybe he's more gifted in this area, and she's more gifted in this, like, then how about we throw the rules out the window and we do what's best for our family, And so that's been, I just remember that's been one of the issues with going out, with going older, is they are just very
That's
old
true.
school.
The roles, the perception of relationship and roles is different, even older and younger. And this is, of course, this is biased, but I feel like our generation has the perfect mix. I feel like, Gen Z would be too open to anything. Like,
Right.
You could claim you're a bunny rabbit or something, And at the same time, the older generation, the one before us, they're too closed with their emotions.
Too rigid.
Right. They don't want to show emotion. They see it as a weakness kind of thing. And I feel like we got that good balance. I feel like us.
Yeah.
I know this is a little off topic, but we are lucky to be in the best generation. I feel like I've said that before, but
You may have.
But like, we were at the cusp of the technology age. We started like emotional intelligence. That was our thing. We started pushing that. We're quick. We could work a little, but we're quick to leave too. Also, like,
right, you're not going to treat us any kind of way.
Out of here, and like the generation before us just love. They just gonna
stay. They gonna stay. Gonna work there for 30
I
years.
work at this grocery store for 20 years, no problem.
Right.
Get a pension from this,
Right.
like that, So, But anyway,
Yeah.
No, we got it best. Everyone wants to date. Us. We're millennials.
Yeah.
So, everyone wants.
They want to dump on us, but they know that
We're the best.
we're actually pretty great. I think we're actually really great, and I think every generation says that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure every generation feels like they're great or whatever. But I truly think we are the best one.
Right.
But only time will tell.
Yeah.
We'll see. I do like the Gen Zs. They are. I don't know. They have some issues, but I think in every generation there's issues.
For sure.
But the ones that I'm seeing that I work with and all that, they're all right. I think they're just a little more to the left than we are, but they're cool.
Okay. Well, that does it. There's nothing wrong with dating, outside of your generation or whatever. Of course, if it's not too young.
Yeah, obviously,
that's obviously
no minors,
right.
y'all.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Common sense.
But
that's not what we're saying.
Yeah, it's for some people and it isn't for others. But this has been Consequences of Our Culture. I'm Randall.
And I'm Stephanie.
You guys have a great day.
Bye.
All right, so dating older people, or younger people.
Yeah, we need to figure out how are we gonna phrase
so
that.
we're gonna talk about.
Let me look at the list because I think you said it already in a nice way. Like,
No, I didn't make a list for that because you had sent those. Yeah, so it was.
Let me see. Oh, age gaps in relationships.
Ooh, that's
there.
nice.
We go.
Age gaps.
I'm
That's
like, I knew
nicely
we had said
worded.
something like
Yeah.
good.
Age gaps in relationships.
That covers it all.
Yeah. And okay, I feel like I know where I could go.
Okay.
You got it? All right.